Jai Sri Sham. Let's start a discussion on the very important topic or that required for all the banks to the transaction monitoring system for the vendor evaluation. So in that video, I'll explain you Hedges baseline document, how the BA will created the Hedges baseline document for the transaction monitoring system for the vendor evaluation. But you can take a reference from this video and you can create all kind of as is baseline document for all kind of project for the vendor evaluation. So I'll make the common things which you need to take and prepare your the as is baseline document while we are working on the projects for the vendor evaluation for the businesses. So let's start discussion on this video. So first one is to uh, the purpose and the objective of creating the as is baseline document, why we are creating this document. So the as is baseline document is provide a comprehensive overview of the current state, which we call as is stage of the or the transaction monitoring system or the system which we you are working. So that will give you the the current state, how the current state will be working, what are the stakeholder involved in current state, and what the tasks they are performing by using this system. So that will you will understand from the as is process to draw the flow chart, process flow diagram, swim lane diagram, or all kinds of the UML diagrams to understand this process. And the key objective of creating the purpose and objective, or understand the purpose and objective, is to establish a baseline understanding of existing system process and challenges, and he will able to identify the pinpoint faced by the stakeholders who are involved in that projects in the current process, and to identify pain point inefficiency gaps in the current system. What are the gaps where we need to improvement, where we need to change the logic, where we need to add AML techniques or new techniques which is develop and working in the industry and high demand techniques. So that we need to add, we need to identify and to serve as the functional requirement document for the vendor evaluation process. So as this document is serve as the foundation of the requirement document for the vendor evaluation, and provide the context and defining the desire and futures to be state. So it will very helpful how your to be the process or the to be things will look like, what how it will work. So that's the importance of these the as is a baseline document. So let's move on the next stage, that is the as is process overview, how the as is process where you overview you should do over the transaction monitoring process or the other process for which you are creating the as is baseline document for the series of manual and semi-automated steps. So first one is a data ingression. So in your as is process there is a data ingression. The data is collecting from the various core banking and payment system. This is obtained the fragmented process. So we will collect the data from the system like the core banking system, instant payment system, card management system, or other electronic channels. So we are collecting data from there by using the API integration, or collecting data in Excel and upload in the transaction monitoring system. You should understand what are the roles involved in that process, and how they are collecting data, and how they are feed the data, and what are the times, or what are the to time required to fetch the data and feed the data. Then we, and how much the count of this data, what are the rules. Then the rule engine and legacy system runs has set predefined and static rule. We should see it the rules. We should read the business logic or the business goals to in the rule engine, and that will run that data and identify the suspicious transaction, and then alert generation. Then the system will generate alerts based on the rules hits, and many are fails positive rules. So rules, so we should understand what are the rules are the fails positive, and what are the rules are the true positive. With after the alert generating system will generate the rules. So you should understand that as this process. Okay, then manual review, how the manual review will done by the analyst or AML RO officers. So air compliance, anti-money laundering compliance team, manual investigation, each alert review transactions and gather the additional information related to that, and how they are thinking the if some features or functionality we add in that system, so that will help them to reduce their manual work and increase the transaction monitoring system efficiency. And you know that continuously online transactions size is increasing in India, and there is, we require more and more capable and more the AIML technique that will give us the uh, process, or it will work very fast. And then the case management system, the case are managed through the spreadsheet or basic in-house system. So these are another important the case. I already created the separate video for the case management. If you understand more detail on the case management, so go and watch this video, so that will help you to how to manage the spreadsheet and basic in-house system. And then finally and last and most important thing is the reporting. So report are manually compliant and regulatory bodies to send the reports update there. But if you use the advanced technique for reporting, so the system will automatically generate the suspicious activity report or suspicious transaction report or the cash transactions report, and we will update this report to the regulators or the financial intelligence units to further investigation on that transaction. That's we need to understand the AGIS process and draw the flow chart for the AGIS process in detail and comprehensive way. So let's discuss on the key stakeholder and the team which are involved in the AGIS baseline process. Okay, so first of all, the business stakeholder, we will filter then the business stakeholder and the technical stakeholder. So in a business stakeholder, there is AML compliance team. So first one is a primary end users responsible for daily review and the investigation on transactions, or then the business unit provide the context and customer behavior and the transaction patterns of the customers, and then the legal and audit team who will do the provide the inputs and regulatory requirement and ensure the compliance are satisfied or not satisfied. They will continuously do the audits on the in the transactions. Then the technical stakeholder, there is the IT and technology team managing the existing system, how the existing system should work, what is the process, step by step process in the existing system, where are the pain points are in the existing system, and how we eliminated that existing system, that we will do in the 2B process. And I'll creating for you separate video for the 2B process. And then we will understand the data infrastructure and the system interface, what are the system maintenance things, what are the architecture diagram, what are the technical process flow diagram, and the team data team responsible for data quality and ensuring the data is available for the monitoring. So that is the technical stakeholder in the transaction monitoring system, and we should consider them in the Hedges business document. Let's move on. The most important part is the current technology and that data landscape. So you should understand what are the current technology, what are the current vendor they have, how they are the process should work, and how the data flow will happen in the current systems. So that will help you to understand the 2B technology. So existing system is a legacy, and or it is an the on premises or the cloud based system, or with the limited functionality and scalability. What are the scale, how much the limited functions in that system have, what the functions we need to add, or what are the functions we need to delete or eliminate from the current system. Is there the new enhancement technique for that function? So we need to understand from that system to gain that system. Then the data sources, so there are the different kind of data sources. We collect data from that, and then we feed that data for the transaction monitoring system. So data sources like the core banking system, payment and transaction log, customer due diligence, data from the CRM system, card management system, or the instant payment system. So those are the system from where we are collecting the transaction data or the customer data and feed these data to the systems. So data challenges, we have the some data challenges or to understand the hedges process, and that will we do do the to be process. We don't have such kind of the challenges in data. So fragmented data information is solid and across the multiple systems, so we need to collect these data quality and issuance inconsistent data format and missing the fields. They have some missing fields, we need to the mandatory fields which are missing, we need to update them with using the statistical techniques if required, and lack of central repository, no single view or of the customer. So to there is a lack of 360-degree overview of the customer and their transaction history. So these are the challenges we take, and we make solution for them in the to be process document. So let's move on the hedges process of flowcharts. So there are it is at the 7 step process as this process flowchart, and we need to draw the flowchart. So it contain the data source where we are collecting the data from the core banking system or the payment system or the IPS. Okay, so where we are collecting the data, IPS means the instant payment system, and then the manual data aggregation and cleaning. Are the manual process, we need to use the AML technique or the automation technique or the robotic process automation technique. So that will be not a manual, it is an automatic way systems to data aggregation and cleaning. Then we will alert that feed that data to the alert generating system to alert generate system. It's we call a transaction monitoring system. Currently there is a static rule, we need to the non-static rule, and rule will be the behavior of customers or the nature of the transaction system will generate create their own rule by using AIML technique, and static rule is also there, and the dynamic rule is also there. To system will do to alert generate the alerts. So manual alert trigger is the in current system, that is also the check and time consuming process and alert investigation, manual review, spreadsheet tracking to create the manual documentation. Understand, it's also the depend on the person or the analyst skill sets. He will to do the is it the fraudulent transaction or non fraudulent transaction. So it's and the gap, and the compliance officer review is the compliance officer review, and then finally filing the suspicious activity report and to the financial intelligence units of India, and then finally the case closure. So case closure will done if the case closure will also done, it is and the fails positive case, so we will do the case closure. So then let's move on the next slide. That is the pain points and challenges in the agis process or the current process. So that will help you to draw the 2B diagram. So high fails positive rates. That's the most important because there is a high manual intervention in that system, and there is a static rules to generate the overwhelming number of all that are not the genuine thread and wasting the valuable analyst time. So that's the wasting these are the times of the analyst. So and then the manual repetitive tasks, there is a human interaction to continuously repeat the same tasks, and that will to investigate the process rely heavily on manual data and gathering and analysis. If we use the AIML technique, so that will reduce the manual interaction, and that will fast the process, improve the process scalability, and poor the scalability correctly. There is a currently poor scalability, current system cannot handle, and it is not able to growing the volume of transaction. And we know that continuously transaction volume are increasing in the market, and more our customer are going online and to do the purchase. So we need to track such kind of transaction without significant performance and degradations. So limited reporting, so they have in the current system they are generating the customer and ad hoc report is a complex and time consuming thing. So these are the pain points. We have the limited reporting thing and lack of advanced analytical techniques. So the current system lack of capabilities like a network analysis, pair grouping, machine learning to improve the alert quality. So we need to keep in this mind, and that add in the to be process. So the system should have the analysis, network analysis, pair grouping, machine learning techniques, so that will help to grow their transaction monitoring system, and the online transactions will increase. So we need to capable the system that will track all the transactions with the live and real-time live perspective. So the key metrics of the as is state. So first one is a daily. We need to collect these data from the stakeholders. So how much the daily alert generated by the system? What are the number of alerts are generated by the system for the total rules, or each rules we need to understand. Then monthly is suspicious activity files. How much the in a month, how much the suspicious activity we are going to file, what are the alert closure rate, how much the alert we are going to close, which consider the fails positive, and the alert generated resolution time, how much the time which take to resolve the alert, and what is the process flow, who are the stakeholder involvement in that stage, and the percentage of manual effort and investigation. So how much the percentage, these metrics will use as a benchmark to measure the success of new system. So that is the most important thing we need to add. Let's move on the identify the gaps and future needs. So we need as a business analyst or as a person, we need to identify the gaps in the current system so that we are fit for the future needs of that system. So the analysis, the hazes analysis identify the critical gaps that new system must address, and that do not have in the new system. So need for the dynamic and risk based rules, or the AIML based rules, or the automated case management and workflow routine. We need to automate all these things in the vendor should have and workflow routine, and it will improve the performance of the anti-money laundering team, and advanced analytic and machine learning capability system should have. It should automatically detect the false positive and true positive transactions, or the customers IDs. That will help, and the comprehensive reporting and dashboard. So we need to continuously report this thing to the financial intelligence units, or the senior or the higher management of that the organization or the bank related to this thing in a dashboard, and the scalability to handle the future transaction growth. So I already told you the continuous transaction number of transactions will increasing. So scalability, how much the transaction in the 2B, and how the system will capable to handle such kind of transaction. And then the integration and multiple data sources, how much the integration will happen, and how much the multiple kind of data sources is there. So that's we need to identify the gaps, and it will consider for the future needs. So let's move on the second last side, that is the summary and the next step. So